Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited updates on Starship are finally here. Yes, in a statement released on Wednesday, November 17th, Musk shed light on SpaceX's upcoming features and schedule for Starship launches in 2022. Now, what are some of the exciting features that we should all be looking forward to? While hosting a presentation with the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine Space Studies Board, Musk revealed that SpaceX is hoping to have its Starship rocket's maiden orbital flight test by January. However, this timeline is strongly dependent on testing and regulatory permission. Here's what Musk had to say about the January timeline.
The first orbital flight we're hoping to do in January. So we've completed the first orbital booster and first orbital ship, and we'll be complete with the launch pad and launch tower later this month, and then we'll do a bunch of tests in December and hopefully launch in January.
For the last couple of years, SpaceX has been working on their revolutionary rocket, the Starship, which is considered a next-generation rocket that will transport freight and humans to the Moon and Mars. The company is working extensively on different prototypes of the Starship at a facility in southern Texas, and they have already completed a number of brief test flights. The ultimate goal of SpaceX is to make the Starship completely reusable, with both the rocket and its booster capable of landing after a launch and recycled for future missions. Initially, SpaceX's most innovative rocket, the Falcon 9, was partially reusable. That being said, Musk acknowledged during the interview that he was unsure if the Starship would be able to reach orbit on its maiden attempt, but he insisted that he is confident that the rocket would reach orbit by 2022. "We plan to have a high flying rate by next year," Musk said. As many as a dozen Starship test flights are expected to be launched by SpaceX in 2022, he claimed, to finish the test flight program and to go on to launching real payloads in 2023. He also emphasized that establishing a Starship mass production line was crucial to achieving the program's long-term objectives. In fact, the greatest limitation on rocket manufacturing at the moment is how quickly the company can construct Raptor engines required for Starship missions. "I believe that for life to become multiplanetary, we'll need maybe 1,000 spacecraft or something along those lines," Musk went on while conducting the interview. "The fundamental objective of SpaceX has been to progress space technology to the point that mankind may evolve into a multi-planet species and, eventually, a spacefaring civilization." Despite the fact that NASA awarded SpaceX a $2.9 billion contract to fly astronauts from the lunar orbit to the surface of the Moon, Musk said that the business is not assuming any international cooperation or external funding for the rocket project. Musk's basic concept remains the same. The Starship and its Super Heavy booster would be a one-size-fits-all system for point-to-point suborbital travel, outer planets missions, and any other types of excursions beyond Earth's orbit, including moon landings. It would be capable of lifting more than 100 tons into low orbit and transporting about 100 passengers at a time to the surface of the red planet. Musk also unveiled additional modifications of the Starship, specifically dealing with engines. Here's what Musk had to say about the new engine features.
Because there are currently 29 engines on the booster, and there will be 33 even at a higher thrust level. That means, so 33 engines per booster, and these are big engines. These are, the Raptor 2 is a roughly 240-ton thrust engine. So we're talking like 500,000 or 600,000 pound thrust engines. So really quite intense.
It has around 2.2 to 2.3 times the thrust of a Saturn V, Musk added. It's the largest rocket ever developed, and we're getting very close to launching it for the first time. According to SpaceX's official website, the first orbital Starship and Super Heavy rocket are presently being tested at the Starbase facility in Boca Chica, Texas. Musk anticipated that the launch pad and tower would be completed by the end of this month. In the following months, he said, "We'll do a number of tests and ideally debut in January. There are a few limitations to this timetable, however." Okay, let's be honest. Musk has a reputation for making overly optimistic predictions regarding launch tables. And let's not forget that the Federal Aviation Administration has to approve the launch before it can proceed, and some industry analysts believe that the FAA might drag out this approval for months. So let's just say that January might be a bit of a stretch, even for a billionaire with enough manpower and resources like Elon Musk. Despite the fact that there there is a great deal of risk connected with this first launch, Musk said, "I believe we will make significant progress. I would not claim that it is likely to be successful," Musk added. Musk also added that SpaceX was working behind the scenes to construct another facility capable of producing a large number of Starship rockets. You see, to accomplish Musk's longer-term ambitions for solar system colonization, they will have to begin with a moon base and a metropolis on Mars. In order for life to become multiplanetary, we'll need maybe 1,000 ships or something like that, he said. Musk also recognized that certain technical issues have yet to be resolved entirely, but said he is optimistic about the future. A recent Twitter debate revealed that even the Raptor 2 engine would be insufficient to truly make life multiplanetary, and that a new class of rocket engines would need to be constructed. For long-distance journeys or space refueling, the Starship needs an insulation technology that has not yet been devised to preserve the supercooled propellants at the right temperature. Musk also responded to a question during the interview about reusability, stating that the utterly reusable launch system would likely begin flying flights in 2 years at a cost much less than the $62 million price that was the case for the Falcon 9 launch. "We have a long way to go and we have a lot to prove, but structurally it is capable of carrying almost any arbitrary mass to practically every solid surface anywhere in the solar system," Musk said. Musk also revealed that 2 early Starship proposals were designed for the moon, one of which was considered successful. Here's what Musk had to say about the Starship NASA progress.
And I think people may know that NASA has selected Starship for the transport of astronauts to the lunar surface. So we look forward to doing that for NASA. And then I think it really could be. It has the ability, because of the mass transport capabilities of transporting enough mass and people to the moon to actually have a permanently occupied, I think, base on the moon.
There are also reports that Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa, who is scheduled to visit the International Space Station next month, has agreed to pay an unknown sum to fly around the moon in 2023. Musk has said that the first 2 or 3 Starship journeys to Mars would be unmanned missions with a view to the future. He explained that he was referring to, "The first thing we'd want to check is that we can land the spacecraft safely on Mars. It is likely that the first crewed missions to the Red Planet will be carried out in collaboration with NASA, or maybe NASA and other nations," Musk went on. Musk's big dream is to have humanity dispersed across the solar system, with Mars acting as a base of operations. In his own words, "I simply believe that being a multi-planet species is a great risk mitigation strategy for human civilization. The Earth will become uninhabitable if you wait long enough, as we all know. So in the long run, we're all going to die. But I believe that the technology we build for getting from Earth to Mars will serve as a very significant driving force for the advancement of space transportation." He drew a connection between the evolution of water transport and the development of aviation.
Like the initial boats that crossed the Atlantic and crossed the Pacific back in the sailing days were really terrible. They would often just plain sink. Once there was a reason to do large amounts of ocean trade, the sailing ships, the wooden sailing ships, got dramatically better. But you kind of have to have that forcing function. So that's what I think will happen, and we'll get much better at space transport.
However, you must have the ability to force others to do something, so that's my prediction about what will happen. We're going to become a lot better at space transportation. Musk has a strong desire to keep the delicate flame of awareness glowing in our part of the cosmos, even if life on Earth is wiped out by an asteroid or other extinction catastrophe. If we have enormous rockets that can do something about it, then that might one day rescue billions of people. SpaceX's Starship rocket and Super Heavy booster are intended to be a completely reusable launch system for deep space missions to the Moon, Mars, and other planets. That being said, the history of the Starship rocket over the years has been quite interesting, to say the least. Musk first revealed plans for the Starship in 2016 and has released frequent updates on its design in the years afterward, building up to a series of suborbital test flights earlier this year. The latest prototype, known as the Starship SN-20, tested its 6 Raptor engines early in November at SpaceX's Starbase facility in South Texas, taking a step closer to its maiden orbital voyage. That orbital test flight will be launched only when the Federal Aviation Administration completes an environmental study of the Starbase facility, which is situated near the community of Boca Chica on the Gulf of Mexico's coast. According to FAA authorities, that study should be completed by December 31st. In a brief demonstration on Friday, August 6th, SpaceX's newest Starship prototype was briefly placed atop its massive booster, setting a new record for the world's tallest rocket ahead of a planned orbital test flight later this year. In front of live streams from NASA Spaceflight and Spadre.com, engineers conducted a stacking test at the SpaceX Starbase facility in South Texas, near the village of Boca Chica, in front of a crowd of onlookers. However, Elon Musk tweeted an update on August 5th indicating that the company had intended to complete the stacking procedure that day, just hours after Starship completed its rollout to the launch pad, but that the wind had made it impossible due to the high altitude. The two vehicles were mated for approximately an hour to conduct fit checks on the Starship SN20 and its Super Heavy booster. During that time, the two vehicles created a towering sight. It is estimated that Super Heavy alone stands 230 feet tall, with Starship SN4 adding another 165 feet to that figure. In total, they stood 395 feet tall, which was taller than NASA's massive Saturn V moon rocket, which stood 363 feet tall. SpaceX sent its next-generation Starship rocket to the launch pad on August 5th as the firm prepared for an ambitious orbital test mission. To reach the launch pad, the Starship prototype SN20 traveled from its manufacturing plant in the South Texas community of Boca Chica, where it met up with the second stage of the Super Heavy first stage rocket, which had arrived there 2 days earlier. SpaceX will also be able to offer space tourism on a full scale in the next few years with its newest updates. The company has been in the news a lot recently, and they've announced that they have plans on being more competitive than ever before, including lowering ticket prices for those looking to tour Earth's lower orbit for pleasure. And so, with these updates revealed, it's clear that SpaceX is aiming to make the Starship an orbital force to reckon with, putting it miles above the competition. But whether the Starship will be as dominant as the Falcon 9 with its series of successful rocket launches, we'll have to wait and see.